welcome to that didn't pick up. Hello, welcome to the fourth installment of the LGDS podcast.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm Brice. I'm Brice Brown.
this is my friend Brice. We were in a math class together for 2 years.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about who's in my math classes. More of my extracurriculars.
Same actually. In math classes, I'm more focused. I mean, I had Adam in our class, who will be on a later episode, I hope. But and I hope it will be on a later episode. But so I had him, and you were in that class, and I mainly stayed focused most of the time.
Yeah, because like
you
math
need
is.
to.
Yeah, like with arts and stuff, you get into the zone. With math, you don't appreciate it, so you have to force yourself to get into the zone.
Exactly, and say environmental science, I was much more of a social person because
it's the things you love.
It's the things you love, and also you don't need to put so much work into it to be able to do it. For example, like environmental science, like you could, like if we were pulling ivy or something, you can talk while you're pulling ivy, versus like a math problem, you need to use all your mental capacity to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes I like math. Sometimes I get into the zone when I do math, but like most of the time it's like, why am I doing this? This is not the thing I want to do right now.
In the past, what's happened with me, I have just hated, like especially in pre-calculus, what we did is I would find what we're doing in class absolutely annoying and horrible until like one morning I just wake up and I just know it. For example, that happened with identities. Like I failed. No, I didn't fail, but I got a very low C, like maybe a 70. And it was like real, like Miss Dowd was looking at me like that's a close C, but I need to think what I'm saying. So yeah. I failed it and I didn't understand it very well at all until one morning I just kind of picked up my study guide. It was actually 2 days before the upcoming test. I just looked at it and I'm like, I get all of this. I had like a little epiphany, and that's just how math's worked with me for years.
Yeah, you learn all like the basic elements. Don't understand any of the problems themselves, but you understand the basic elements. And then once you see the whole picture, some things piece together better. Yeah,
you understand how it's supposed to work. So enough with math class.
Yeah,
let's get down to the meat of this.
The meat boy.
So
local boy.
For what people who don't know you and are listening to this podcast don't know is you are a fantastic animator, fantastic stop motion animation. I've seen like I think you showed me that one project about the dude who travels in a teleporter.
It's a bathroom teleporter on accident. Okay. It's my submission and winning film for the International Youth Silent Film Festival.
Nice.
Thomas and the Extraordinary Bathroom Incident. I started it over a year ago, but I've had the idea in my head since I was like 13.
Nice.
Basically, the log line of this is that there's this man named Thomas. He's a blue clay dude. He has a snout thing. It's sort of a guy I designed when I was 10. And he is at the grocery store and gets locked in a bathroom in an alternate dimension. And so I had the idea when I was 13. I wanted to make it into like a short film, like a long short film, sort of like the Wallace and Gromit shorts. Like
how they're
all like
those
22 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I wanted to make like a Thomas series, but I wanted that like after I lived, like when I was like, in a working environment and not just a kid. But then the Youth Silent Film Festival was something I did since 7th grade. I did it once in 7th grade, then I did it again when I was a sophomore. When I was a sophomore, I made a film with Ian and Dylan, and that was Justice Deposit, and that was a film about two rugged cops trying to hunt down bank robbers who rob entire banks.
Nice. Now I have a question.
Yeah.
You're talking a lot about your films that you've made. Is there any place like I could put in the description or any place that you could find any of these? Do you have a YouTube?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I have my YouTube channel. It's just Brice Brown. It used to be Cuddly Sandwich because I thought that was cute. But I just went with Brice Brown so that I can go to college.
Nice.
And I have a few animated films on there. Justice Deposit is on other channels, but I have playlists of stuff I've been in, so I could fix that up. But yeah, I can send you all these things.
That'd be perfect, so people that listen to this can find your work and see how good you are. Because I've done a little bit of stop motion, in a stop motion class at school, and I understand how patient a person needs to be able to do that. Like, I remember I got to 7. I did, since one thing, it wasn't clay like you do, or at least the ones that I've seen you do. I used paper a lot and had to move paper cut out animation. That is stressful.
It's really stressful, yeah. Doing that, like, you breathe a little bit and everything moves.
Oh, you have no idea. I have this one thing where I was so close to finishing it. I had I'd say comrade in arms, because that's what you needed to be when you were in that class with me, because so many things went wrong. I had a comrade in arms, or a classmate, Harley, helping me with a project about a man walking and then falling over a log. And we had pretty much everything done, and he walked up, and then he was about to fall on the log, and then someone opened a nearby door, and just the whole, like, really fast, I don't know what was going on, but the kid kicked it through, and the wind from the door knocked my entire sheet off, and I just sat there, and I just... Oh. The boy just, ran down, I think he was going... I don't know what was going on. But he kicked the door through out of my classroom, because I was out in the hallway, and I just look at him, as he walks away, and I'm just like, how could you?
You ruined my life.
Yeah, how could you do this to me?
It's a very stressful thing when that happens.
Yes. And that's part of the reason I've stuck to an interest in digital animation.
Yeah.
It's more forgiving, but
very much so.
I guess it's the difference between
physical and digital.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a bunch of... I'm doing a online course for Cal Arts right now, and a lot of the artists in that online class, they're very digital artists, because you can literally erase anything. Meanwhile, with practical drawing, that's once you get the pen on paper, you can't unpen that paper unless you want a bunch of whiteout on the page. Yeah. But if you have that skill and the more permanent practical, then it improves your skill in the a lot more forgiving softwares.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to, it's learning how to just use your hands and do it, and you understand the drawing techniques and how to use clay when it's transferred to say, if you were to recreate your clay animations in a 3D modeling sense, if you knew how to use the software, you could do it easily, because you know how to do it in a much harder medium.
Yeah. That's the same thing with the guy who animated Golem for Lord of the Rings. It was supposed to be a practical puppet. It was supposed to be a costume. Mm-hmm. But then the director said, we're going to do CGI. But he had the same person who made the costume and makeup do the CGI, because he knew how people were supposed to look. And if you hired a CGI artist, it would have looked like bad CG. And
because
it would have
he doesn't
dated.
know how the character was made to move. That's great.
Watching Golem today, it still looks extraordinarily good. Maybe not perfect, but it when I see Golem on screen with the other characters, I feel like there's another character on screen.
Yes. I don't know who could fit in that costume, but I feel like the new Hobbit movie, not the newest, but when the Hobbit first came out, the Golem scene with him and Bilbo was one of my favorites, because it kind of brings a new light, because in the Lord of the Rings, Golem was always scary and always kind of like a creepy character. Also, I was 5 to 6 years younger, but at that time I felt he was more scary, and I kind of felt more connected to him, and more like oh, he's kind of friendly sometimes, because he wanted to play a riddle game, even though he's trying to eat Bilbo. Still, he's got more of a lighter attitude towards him, and I feel like that was partly due to like the new animation style. Well, it wasn't really a new animation style, but it was just better animation.
That was me pouring Propel, by the way, my signature drink for you listening.
Sponsor.
Yeah, dude.
I'd be sponsored by water.
Dude, Propel is the best. It's my energy. It's what fuels me.
Nice. But yeah, Gollum's was fantastic CGI for its time.
Mm-hmm. For this time.
Yeah, too.
A lot of CGI is a very all of it dates. Like with 2D animation, I was watching Gertie the Dinosaur yesterday. That's one of the earliest 2D animated things ever put on screen. It was Winsor McCay. Winsor McCay was a comic guy, and he made this vaudeville act where he'd project this animated dinosaur he animated himself. The first keyframe animation ever made. He projected it, and it was he'd talk to Gertie, and he'd command Gertie to do things, and that watching that today, it uses all the fundamentals, all the principles of animation that we still use today. So it's a little bit like it's old, and like it looks like it was made like with the old cameras, but the animation itself, the art itself, it lives up. It feels like the same 2D animation we kind of see today, or at least practically, not Flash animation and stuff. That's very different.
I feel like there's some old cartoons that still, like, their animation and stuff is still so crisp and so well done. Like, it's Dragon Ball Z is one I think of. Not exactly crisp, and like it doesn't look as appealing. It still looks like it looks like it's time because it was from the 80s, early 90s. But the choreography and the way they did things and the techniques they used, especially in their early movies and like the Dragon Ball films, was quite kind of not exactly as extremely revolutionary, but it lives on, and I can still enjoy it, even
like
though
what usually dates 2D animation is the style itself and not the technology. Like all the drawing skills throughout the ages and all the ways to animate, like the principles of animation with 2D animation never really changed. Like if you watch Gertie the Dinosaur and like say Your Name, which is like the most modern 2D animation thing I could think of, like they're basically the same quality of animation. Like they're not the same exact quality, like, but I feel like Gertie the Dinosaur, like all the older stuff, Felix the Cat, Gertie the Dinosaur, there's not much of a difference between the 2D animation there and the 2D animation today. Meanwhile, with CGI, the technology that makes it always advances. So no matter what, it's going to date. So that's why it's important to keep a style in place.
I remember watching Terminator, the first Terminator, with my mother, and she was like, "This is the scariest scene ever." Is when the Terminator's like all his skin is falling off and he's the robot. But the animation is stop motion, and you can clearly see it's stop motion, and it's so like. For now, you can totally be like I laughed a little bit because I was like, "How is this scary?" It looks like a little robot just like walking. Which is what it's supposed to be, but it looked so obviously stop motion because back then they didn't have, or at least I don't know who directed the Terminator, but I guess they didn't have the best background in stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion is like a hard thing to do generally.
Oh, definitely.
I think it has definitely improved over the time, but that's only because people have put more effort into it. I don't think it's like I guess there's some technology that's improved stop motion, but really it's just stop motion is always going to be impossible. What matters is how much effort you put into it, and I think more and more people are trying to put more effort into it. Like you got like Will Witten and and Harryhausen, like they're very revolutionary stop motion animators.
You know what movies have they made?
Well, Harryhausen, he did Jason and the Argonauts, Mighty Joe Young.
Okay.
He's responsible for releasing the Kraken. He's done
the Kraken.
Yeah, he's done all those stop motion monsters. And Will Witten was the California Raisins guy, and he also did Rip Van Winkle and
okay.
Yeah, you've seen that?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that short so much. But yeah, the stop motion there is like, I feel like they're limited, but I don't think that's because of technology. I think it's because they didn't know how much to do stop motion yet. Like, I've been saying effort, but it's not like they didn't put effort to their work. They put a lot of effort into their work.
It was so young. Like,
exactly.
Like, no one could. It's just like back when video games were first being created. It's not that they didn't try their hardest and use all the technology that they had. They just didn't have the same technology.
Yeah, Will Vinton and Harryhausen, they worked as hard as they can, and nowadays there's people who are working harder still.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that they didn't work hard. It's just people today are working way more harder. And it's always going to be exponential with how hard people work. It's not that they could have worked better and it would have looked better. It's as good as it's going to look. Will Fitton's work, like California Raisins, Harryhausen. Like, the puppets. They're all amazing puppets. Which is the figure you animate. They're all amazing puppets. And they move kind of jerkily, but like that's all stuff that they couldn't even deal with. Like,
yeah, like how you did they have like the ability to make like a 60 frame per second?
No one can do 60 frames a second stop motion.
Yeah, no.
That's impossible. Most of the time it's 12 frames a second.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did 12.
Yeah, that's on 2s.
Yeah.
As compared to 1s, which is just 24 frames a second.
Mm-hmm. So what's probably your favorite stop motion film to date? Like,
easily Wallace and Gromit, Wrong Trousers. That's in my top 10 list of films. That's my number 0.
Yeah, Wallace and Gromit has got to be. It was a great example. Like just the whole one. I don't think I remember seeing Missing Pants, but I remember the Were Rabbit.
The Were Rabbit. That's the movie.
That's a good one. We watched that with my class, and to be honest, sometimes it kind of like the clay. Just the way they form the clay and everything is so smooth and it looks amazing.
So smooth. It looks great. Nick Park's early work with Creature Comforts and Grand Day Out, they still look really smooth. Like the way everything moves. Like sometimes Wallace's arm is a bit dirty, and like sometimes it looks a bit like older animation. Actually, yeah, that's a lot of older stop motion animation was just puppetry animation from Britain or Europe, Czech. It wasn't clay and stuff. It was just a puppet they manipulate, and the mouths wouldn't even move. They'd just be, like Naughty and Postman Pat. They just move their head a little bit. Postman Pat, and his black and white cat.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but they expressed with their movements only. And then you got Nick Park who did mouths and stuff. Like I feel like part of what trained him was more of the puppetry stuff. And then he added more character animation to it with mouth movements and eye
facial
movements.
expressions. Yeah. That's a big
And he was able to do it smoothly. I feel like, excuse me, like with Will Vinton and stuff, they focused on making really good looking puppets, like more realistic. With Nick Park, he tried to make it more cartoony so that it'd be a lot easier to animate, and then you could get the principles of animation down a lot easier. Like when you have, like, you know, like just the 12 principles of animation, they're just really Like when I met Will Vinton, which is something I did at the Youth Silent Film Festival, that's something he really told me, like really wanted to enunciate was the 12 principles, because they're great. And the 12 principles are developed by Ollie Johnson and the other guy, two of the nine old men from Disney. Disney's animation still holds up today.
Oh yes,
absolutely.
Disney was revolutionary.
In fact, it's better than today, I think. Like there's no Disney has stopped making 2D animation since
exactly, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, so there isn't another. I don't think, because I don't know where those 2D animators are today. There's a lot of really good like Flash animators nowadays, but like the art of 2D cell animation is gone. And like if you try it again, it's not going to look as good as it was in the classic
now
days.
It's all 3D. I'm sorry, 3D animation, like in the new, like Moana, the Emoji Movie.
Oh God.
Oh, it's so cringy. Now I have another question.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure. Someone mentioned to me that it was entirely done stop motion, but I actually don't, like, part of me doesn't believe them. Is the Lego Movie stop motion?
okay, when you talk, the directors say it's like a mixed match of stop motion and CGI, but I only think there's only one shot in the film that's actually stop motion, and even then I'm not sure. But like most of the whole film looks like it's CGI to me.
Yeah.
Like they followed the rules of stop motion. It looks like a stop motion film. When I first watched the Lego Movie, I actually thought it was a stop motion film. But like they use...
trained eye can see it's kind of it's a little too easy.
Well, yeah, especially on those like really HD TVs. You ever see those where it's like they sometimes like they do a thing where like when something's on ones, the TV like makes the frame shift in a higher frame rate instead of just 24 frames a second. So then sometimes in cartoons you would have something moving in twos, and then the background would be moving on ones, but the TV would turn it into 60 frames a second. So you'd have this character moving in twos, and then the background moving in 60 frames, and it was so mismatched. It's so weird.
So now, when you say moving in ones and moving in twos, how would you? I believe I understand what you mean. I'm not sure if everyone else would.
Okay, well, all film, basically the basic frame rate of film is 24 frames a second.
And that's within 1 second, 24 different images are going across the screen.
Yeah. So when you're animating on ones, it means your puppet or character, whatever you're animating, is changing position every 1 frame. When you're on twos, you're changing position every 2 frames. So that makes it 12 frames a second. But sometimes other things can be moving on ones while one other thing moves on twos. And then sometimes there's 2 things moving on twos, but they shift individually. So it's not like you just need to say 12 frames a second, because you're still moving in 24 frames a second. Just sometimes things in that 24 frames a second scene moves in 12 frames.
I remember we started off working with 6 frames per second.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was quite like it just like going from like, because I play a lot of video games and watch a lot of high definition movies, going from 60 frames to 6 frames, it's just like what? It's like and it takes like of course a 1/6 of a second to move to another frame, and it feels so slow and so jerky.
Yeah, 12 frames. I forget I think it was Edison, because he like developed film. Like he developed the first cameras and stuff like for filming and such. Not the first, but like he was integral.
Yeah.
I think he found out it was like the
smoothest the human eye can actually see.
Like once you like get to 16 frames a second, that's when it gets like as smooth as any other frames above.
Yeah.
So like 12 frames is a little bit choppy, but it works. But 16, once you get 16 and above, it's basically all good. It's basically all the same. But we use 24 because it's such a fun number to divide. Like you can divide in half, in thirds, in sixths.
It's a nice number. It's like 64.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy.
Well, even 64, that's all twos.
Yeah.
Like 24, you got a 3 in there.
Oh, nice.
So it's a very easily dividable number. And then if you do things on twos, then that's 12, and 12 can do 4 and 3s. You could do 3. You could split into 3, and you could split into 4s and 2s. It's just a very round number.
Yeah, that's nice. And so a background could be moving in, say, like a two frame area, and then a character can be moving in a different frame rate, so it looks like the background's smoother than the actual character moving.
Yeah, sometimes, but like you can get away with it a lot of the time. But when you have like these, I was talking about these newer HD TVs, they convert things on ones into like, because that's how compression works. Compression, like with analog tape, it's film. It's 1 frame is every different frame. With computers and stuff, they have to compress. So what they do is that they recognize in between each frame what's the same, so that they don't have to, like, say there's a black background, you don't have to put in the code for a black background every time the frame changes.
Yes.
You could just have one code. You could just have one code that says black background. Then for the next frame, it'll be like, change a few colors here, but keep this part black. And it won't even have to print out the entire code again. It keeps things very simple.
That's one.
So Yeah. So like with analog tape, it reprints the same black screen every time, but in digital, it knows everything is in frame. It knows what's in frame and what changes. So I think these newer TVs, now that they know what things in the screen are changing at a time, instead of having like things on ones go change every one, they recognize, oh, I see this background is moving consistently this way. Instead of jumping a 24th of a frame, let's just move it on screen instead of programming it to be in frames. Let's just move it in 60 frames. That's what I think is happening, and it looks very odd in 2D cartoons and stuff.
Definitely. I think one thing you mentioned, how on computers you can put in a black background and then that background will stay if you just let it stay or program it to stay. One cool thing when I used Flash years ago, of course there's a few things that have changed about it, but you can just say if you wanted a character to walk, you'd take one frame of him walking, of him in half a step, and then place him in another frame, like a few frames down, in the other step. And then it will just, like, of course, sometimes it can mess up. If you do something simple enough, the computer will do the work for you and say, this is what changed, and then suddenly you have a guy taking a step.
Yeah, tweens. That's tweening. Yeah, that's what makes Flash so much easier than other animation things.
Because
you're not animating movement from scratch. Like, some of the work is done for you.
And you don't have to take the same. You don't have to automatically take the pictures, and you don't have to automatically or redraw the image.
Something about that to me, like I don't think it's bad to do that. I just think there's more magic in seeing those individual frames, one by one, redone each and every time. That's why a lot of stop motion to me is like a lot of stop motion to me is kind of the same. Like when you have puppetry animation, it's just one puppet being manipulated every time. For me, I like seeing when things are being traded out, like replacement animation, like with Leica. Leica's face animation is not clay or anything. It's these 3D printed individual movements of the mouth and stuff for each expression or each vocal lip sync stuff. Like they just trade it out. It's all replacement animation and it looks really smooth, and I love it when it's like, I love just seeing in stop motion when things are actually being like animated, when like and not being manipulated. If you want to do a tiny puppet show, you could just do it in live action. Stop motion, you could like trade things out. You can have things change color a bit. You could have like things smearing. You could have things change shape in the frame. Like things can get bigger or smaller.
Nice.
It's like you could be a lot more metamorphic.
I remember
that's what Will Vinton did a lot.
Yeah, I remember having to make a bunch of different mouth shapes for we did this where we just had to have a face. We had to make a bust and just have it go through all the different emotions you can think of. So I had to make like 7 different mouth shapes. Problem is, I didn't really make. I learned that you can't just. This is early in the year, of course. I can't just make a mouse shape, a mouse shape, a mouse shape, a mouse shape. Each one is a different emotion. I have to make the ones in between that and make them as smooth as I can by going from one shape to another. So originally I made the video with all the different mouth shapes and all the different eye shapes, and I made the eyebrows and everything move slowly and the eyes move slowly and smoothly, but the mouths were just bat changing. So I had to then kind of go back, recreate every I think I went from 7 to 42 mouth shapes or something. And this was on paper. I did paper, so I just had to draw them out, and I had to retake all those. Originally, that one was one of my hardest. That was one of my hardest projects besides the final project. The final project, I actually made a movie about Guy Fieri from Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives travel in time across to ancient China. We had this whole idea because I was working with these 2 freshman kids who were very imaginative, and I was totally I was willing to run with anything they said because it's nice. And oh, that's my stomach. And so we had this whole idea of having Guy Fieri travel through time and go through all these different areas in time and like medieval England and like Battle of Dragon, old like ancient Rome, ancient China, and so eventually we just had this. We ran out of so much time because we spent so much time making characters, and of course with your projects, of course you probably had a deadline for the youth film festival.
Yeah.
But if it's just something you're making for fun, you kind of can go at your own leisurely pace.
Yeah, I spent a whole year making that film, so I had all the time to just like take my time. If nice. I make mistakes, I could fix them with like a few hours. If I bump the camera, I could take like 30 minutes just to reposition it. I hate it when I bump the camera.
Oh, I actually dropped the camera.
You dropped the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
So I am a clumsy person.
No.
And that's not good with stop motion. You need to be very articulate. You need to be very of course, I'm good with my hands and stuff, and I can move, like, if I need to smooth the clay or move a piece of paper the right amount, I can do that. But then when I stand up, there goes the camera. I just knock it over. And that was a big hindrance to me getting into stop motion, because I think the most I had to redo a project was 3 times. Or redo a film session, a scene, like 3 times. A clip.
A shot.
I had to redo one shot in the final project of Guy Fieri going into the ancient Chinese restaurant. I had to redo that 3 times, because one time I got through the whole scene and my partner's hand was in it for like half a frame, not even half a frame, for a full frame, and then another time I knocked over the camera, and that's such a crushing feeling.
It is, but like you're knocking it over. When I bump the camera, I hate restarting shots. Usually when I restart a shot, it's because I didn't animate it right. Usually it's not because I bumped a camera or something. Sometimes that's it, but usually when I restart a shot, it's because it's not working right, and I have to restart. I have to redo frames all over again. But when I bump the camera and I have animation that already looks good, I'm like, I don't want to redo that. I don't think I can redo that. I'm just gonna take 30 minutes and shift legs, trying to turn the camera, make sure it's zoomed in perfectly, see the onion skin if it shifts properly. So a lot of times in my Thomas film, did I mention the title of that yet? I mentioned the film at the very beginning.
I believe you did, but plug yourself some more, please.
Yeah.
I want the people who listen to this to check you out.
I'm not even sure if I mentioned I'm a stop motion animator.
I think you did mention, because you made that one with your friends and also the one that won the film festival.
I didn't make the Justice Deposit was live action.
Oh, live action. Okay.
Yeah. Like Thomas and the Extraordinary Bathroom Incident was the first thing I actually did, and I've done I did the class you're talking about, the Claymation 1. That was when I was a freshman. But before that, I went to an OMSI animation camp animation course. That was the first time I did that was the first time I did clay stuff. That was when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
And I got a few, like, my parents got me one kid stop motion set, and I made like 3 films, like 3 shots on that thing in total. And I got a stop motion app on my phone. I made a few animations on those, but not enough to really say I've made them. But Thomas and the Bathroom Incident, that was my first big thing where I was trying to prove how much I could do CGI. Why do I keep calling it CGI? It's stop motion. It's the exact opposite.
And so, one thing, so you've been doing this for years, pretty much.
I've always been sculpting. Like I haven't, like I've said, I haven't animated a bunch, but I've always, like, since I was 10, my room has been full of clay, and even before that, I use Play-Doh a lot, and now Play-Doh is a slur in the stop motion world, so I just use plasticine, Claytoon, more professional things.
More professional terms, yeah.
Wax. I love using wax. Like the smooth feeling of beeswax and mixed with clay. That's nice. Awesome feeling. When I was a kid, when it was Thanksgiving, and my parents were going on a road trip to our grandparents' house, they gave me this tin of silly putty, and I messed with that thing the entire way down to San Francisco. So like I've always had a feel with clay. I've always loved like making stuff out of it. Like even better than I could draw. A lot of people like learn to draw before they sculpt. I learned to sculpt before I could draw.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out how drawing works.
I'm actually working on my drawing with my skills because, like I said, I've done animation on digitally, and I like to do 2D digital animation. I haven't messed around with 3D yet. I hope to maybe be an animator one day, but I need to practice drawing.
Join me.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
But I need to practice my drawing skills better. I need to hone my drawing skills better. I remember this. Tell me if you tried this, because it's a mixture between. We did this in the class. It's a mixture between stop motion and live action, because you don't use models. You use people.
Oh.
In stop motion.
Oh yeah, that's
what it's
pixelation.
Called. Pixelation, yes.
Pixelation isn't used a whole lot. In all film really. I've only seen it done in stop motion classes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it be done practically in a film. I wanted to for one film I've been trying to make over the summer, but I want to get to that later.
I guess maybe the reason it's not in a film is if you can film it stop motion with a person, why not just do it with a person and just film it that way? Maybe that's why, but I still think there's a lot of cool things that people have done on YouTube. If you look up pixelation...
There's a lot of awesome pixelation. Actually, yeah, there's one pixelation short film. I forget who made it. It's on this Expanded Entertainment. They were a VHS manufacturer. They made these compilations of cartoons from Oscar-winning cartoons and a lot more like adult cartoons. Not like adult cartoons.
Yeah, no.
But like adults, like stuff that's more high-end animation, I guess you'd say. And one of them was this pixelation film, and it was all these people on, I think, bikes and stuff, and it was like this like long-nosed guy chasing a guy through a city. I haven't seen the film itself. I've seen a clip of it before the video starts. They'd show like the entire catalog before they show the actual video, and they show a clip of it, and I'm like, wow, those guys. Pixelation takes a lot of time to do. There's a lot of really cool pixelation on YouTube too.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen it used in cinema.
Yeah, in cinema, it's still got ways to go, especially with like the techniques of CGI now. You can make a person fly without having to take a million different frames. There's
not a lot of reason to do pixelation if you could just do it live action, besides flying and stuff. But Aardman, they're the animation company does Wallace and Gromit. They made this online series called Angry Kid, and it was pixelation. And what they did is the faces were masks, and they trade the masks out every frame so that the mouth can move, and it's very scary, and I love it. And he's like this rude boy.
That's actually funny.
I love him.
I'm just gonna go through all the different types of stop motion animation I've seen. One thing I really wanted to do so bad, but I didn't have time to in my class, was make a sticky note stop motion animation. Post-it notes. That was cool because what company did it? It might have been Samsung. It was some company that released an ad. Or was it Google? I don't know. It was some big technology company, but they basically released an ad about like working in an office and how the sticky note thing came to life and then just like spread itself all over the whiteboard, and then just like there was a scene where they were playing Galaga on it, which me and a few of my partners in the class tried to recreate, except not with sticky notes. We used markers and redrew all the frames. Oh. Yeah, that was that was stressful on the whiteboard, and I feel like that is a great idea, and I feel like it could be done really well, but I think our execution of it was very poor.
Also uses a lot of ink if you're using an entire whiteboard.
Yeah,
or we're using like a little smaller one.
We were using one. I think it was a full whiteboard.
Like the class like whiteboard?
Not the class whiteboard.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I would say about 4 feet by 3 feet.
That's pretty big.
That was pretty big, and there was some problems with it.
It's Academy ratio too.
Yeah, and so there was problems with the whiteboard because it was dirty. There were scratches on it, and it didn't look nice. But yet it kind of felt authentic of it being a whiteboard. So we would have us create like my friend would click on the screen, and then the like Galaga plane would pop up, and then he would click on like a button that we had created, which is a red dot on the side, and he would click on it whenever, and the Galaga fighter would fire, and then I'd be his opponent, and I'd be playing the bad guys, and I'd click on the screen, and then the bad guys would pop up and attack him. So it was a good idea, and I feel like if done better, it could be done very well, but ours just had some, because we were so like inexperienced. I think I understood how it was supposed to work, but didn't understand how to do it.
You attempted it at least.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the important part.
There are some people out there that just like I knew someone who really wanted to get into animation years ago, and she never wanted to do it because the animation class at her school was a very serious class.
A very serious class?
Yeah.
So like
people would take it was very competitive because you were graded off like comparative to your classmates.
Oh my god, that's something you should never do with animation.
You should never do it with
not with art
in general,
but especially not animation.
Yeah, and she went to this very strict private art school in California, and that was how the animation class was, and it kind of drove her away from it. And I told her, I was like, well, if you want to get into it, the only thing stopping, you don't exactly need to be in that class. You can just get your phone and just take a bunch of pictures, fill up your memory card, and then put that all into like a stop motion app, and it would be fine. So there were a few kids that did just use their phones. Like we had full on cameras, full like MacBooks that had lovely software and everything, but they chose to use their phones because it was mobile and they could go work outside. And
did they have tripods with the phones?
No.
Oh my god, they just took frame.
And that was it kind of showed that they didn't have a tripod. It was pretty shaky.
That's very shaky.
But I feel like, you know, if you can do it with just your phone and a tripod.
That's true, yeah.
You could really practice.
Like shaky stop motion isn't even consistently shaky.
Yeah.
Like it's so jaggedy, it's like random, but it's kind of a cool effect if you use it for like the right things.
Yeah, the right things.
Like that was what I was gonna say earlier. You talked about the Terminator stop motion and pixelation. I think those are very eerie looking. The way you can use stop motion can be used for horror.
Yeah.
Like there was one film at the Youth Silent Film Festival. It wasn't like a smooth animation, but it was puppets done like frame by frame. It kind of looked more like an animatic, but it looked awesome. Like the puppets, like the way it was all really jaggedy, like it made it a lot more scary. I thought it was really cool. I really like that.
All right, that does sound kind of cool, and like using, like of course there's so many different genres of film. And when you think of stop motion, I think of like Wallace and Gromit, and actually one of my favorite ones, and this is a little weird, is Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, well, that's a great film.
Yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is actually one of my favorite films of all time because it's just so witty, and George Clooney is casted perfectly.
He is.
There's no man on this earth made for that role better than George Clooney.
I love it because like a lot of animation is like put into a box. Like I was watching the Criterion Collection only has 3 animated films in their catalog, and that's Fantastic Mr. Fox, Akira, and Watership Down. Mm-hmm. I believe that's still it. They might have changed it, but last time I checked it was just those 3. And I watched Akira yesterday That's a fantastic film. But watching that, I realized all of animation isn't put into context with filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's usually its own thing. Like, you got like the history of filmmaking. People are usually like Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, A Godfather. Like, there's this big story of filmmaking, but then animated films are, for some reason, a different story. Like, Disney, sometimes you see Fantasia put into the context of film as in general. Like, if you see like a compilation of the history of film, 1940, 1941, usually they put in like Seven Dwarves or Fantasia in there. But like I watched Akira, I realized like all of like anime film has a very particular history, and you can put that into context with film history in general, but not enough to make it like more important to AFI, the American Film Institute, or like Disney films, CGI films, stop motion films. They're put into a box. This is a different story. Here's filmmaking. What I want to do is when I make my stop motion films, I want them to be in context with filmmaking in general and not just the animation world.
I bet nowadays, like, of course, I don't know. I don't really feel like some amazing movies like, let me think here, like Inside Out and Moana, and like the newer Disney films. I feel like they've been given even more hype than say, like, what's that new movie? La La Land. Which was a good movie and was critically like acclaimed and like really loved, but yet I hear more about like Zootopia and
Disney films.
So I think Disney, even though like you said they moved away from 2D animation, I feel like just animation in general is slowly becoming one with the film industry. At least for me, I feel like it's not like it used to be where it's like, oh, I'll go watch a cartoon, I'll go watch a show.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I want people to watch animation.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got movies like the Emoji Movie, and they just put. Oh God! You just have these people assume these things about animation, and you forget that it's part of filmmaking. Like, you talk about Disney films; they're all G or PG.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like every other film is like every other like mainstream film is PG-13. Like literally. Like that's the golden.
The Avengers.
Yeah, that's the golden rating. Like if it's R, unless it's an Oscar film, you try to make it R. If it's R, people probably won't see it because they can't bring their kids to it. If it's G or PG, they probably won't bring people to it because it's G or PG. It's not important. But for some reason, people are like, if this is a G or PG animated film, that's okay. And like in live action, they got. PG-13 is like what everyone wants to see, but no one wants to see a PG-13 animated film for whatever reason.
I think they should make an R-rated horror movie in all stop motion.
Oh, that'd be great. There's a lot of R-rated.
And it's been done. Horror, not exactly horror movies, but Coraline. Coraline was scary.
Yeah, so scary.
And like I read the book and then I watched the movie, and like the book scared me, but then watching, like, of course I watched it when I was 16 and I was no longer scared by it. But it's still like to see the mom and like remember like, oh, the buttons on the eyes and to like see that crawling hand, to be able to see that image when I remember it like kind of scaring me as a kid, it still gave me chills because it's well animated, it's got the right tempo and feel to it, and I feel like there's possibilities for like horror movie stop motion. There's also possibilities for stop motion to get out there. I think another stop motion that I think of when I think of like the top tier echelon is The Book of Life.
The Book of Life. Oh, that was the CGI.
That was CGI?
Yeah.
Oh,
but they did it in a wood puppet style.
Oh, okay. Now I'm embarrassed.
No, that's fine. Well, CGI and stop motion, they're both 3D animation. Like you got Flash and traditional. Those are 2D. And people did people did that for the longest time, and like I feel like the history of CGI corresponds with the history of stop motion.
Oh yes, of course. I mean,
like when I watch Wallace and Gromit, I always forget that CGI was a medium after this.
Yeah.
Like watching these really smooth 3D animation, watching this really smooth 3D animation happening on screen, I forget that people didn't know how to do that yet. And then when Toy Story came out, that was like when it became a big thing, when like people were like,
oh my gosh, this is
no
amazing.
more flat animation. We're gonna do 3D animation now, and CGI is like stop motion animation is responsible for why CGI looks the way it does. It was the backbone. Like Will Vinton and Nick Park, Henry Selick, they're all the backbone of what makes CGI look good.
Nowadays, I think, like you've mentioned, in America, major films and most like major serious animation is all 3D, and no 2D animation left anymore. However, that's different all the way across the world in Japan.
Yeah,
Japan, like Studio Ghibli,
they're still doing stuff.
And like
Your Name
is fantastic.
Yeah. I really want to see Your Name.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's in America to watch, but it's like it's apparently really high grossing.
Oh wow!
It's from Japan, I think. Yeah,
I remember.
It should be. It's like has like 300 million in the box office so far.
Oh wow!
But it's not even in America because that's not a market they have anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing with like a lot of course you can't talk about Japanese animation without just talking about anime in general.
Mm-hmm.
Anime.
I talked about Akira earlier.
Akira, yeah, and I remember like Studio Ghibli, Howl's Moving Castle took my breath away.
I still want to watch that. I actually have from the library.
It's really good. The animation style is really good, and it keeps the color palette itself goes from very like kind of toned down colors to a very bright color from like dark. That even has like a bit of like a dark twist to it here and there, and I think with anime and animation, Japanese animation, they've been able to cross that from kids to adults. Yeah. I think there's a lot of there's definitely adult animation.
There's a lot.
We don't want to talk about that level, but there's adult centered animation.
And even like what I was talking about, PG-13 stuff. Like not everything, in America you got Fritz the Cat's straight up NC-17. But like there's a lot, whenever people are like adult animation in America, it's like Family Guy, Robot Chicken. It's like they try to go or South Park. They try to go all Sausage Party. They try to go.
No.
They try to go all the way to R.
Sausage Party.
And no one wants to do 13. No one wants to do PG-13. But in Japan, it's anime,
normal. Yeah.
Anime is just another medium, so they put anime in the same context with the rest of their filmmaking.
Yeah. And it's really like, of course, I don't know too many non-animated Japanese shows because I don't speak Japanese, but it's a big fundamental part of animation is huge in Japan. Of course, it's completely different than the Western style of CGI and like cartoons. Like when I think of cartoons, I think of SpongeBob, I think of Johnny Test and stuff like that. But they weren't taken as seriously as like a movie like you mentioned Casablanca. Like it's never taken that seriously.
I want people to take animation very seriously.
I think it should be. I think, of course, I know that there are people that put their lives and souls into the films that they make, but it's not taken to a adult or PG-13 standpoint.
It's because of Disney's brand and Hanna-Barbera's brand. They tried to make, like, Walt Disney was a genius for making family films because everyone can watch a family film.
Yeah.
And then nowadays family films are the PG-13. But Disney's brand doesn't want to change. It's like there's actually one moment in Disney history where Disney watched with his family To Kill a Mockingbird, and he like tapped on, I forget who it was he tapped on, but he told them, I want to make films like this. But he was stuck in this brand, trying to make family films for everyone, like cartoony. He made up this style. And because of that, Hanna-Barbera, like, they invented limited animation. I'm not sure they invented it, but they were definitely... an integral part of it. They made this style of animation that used way less in between frames. It was all just like talking heads most of the time. Okay. Like Scooby-Doo, early anime, a lot of anime today even. Like there's a lot less in betweens. It's a lot less smooth, but it's limited. It still tells a story. A lot of shows were made with that limited animation style because it was easier. It was so much easier to do. So there was a lot of crap in the 70s. In the 70s and 80s. There's a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. And, you know, they've got good ones. A lot of good limited animation shows, like Wacky Races, Flintstones, Jetsons. I mean, I'm not sure they live
Tom and Jerry?
Yeah, Tom and Jerry... Well, Tom and Jerry was made by Hanna-Barbera, but that was not limited. That was straight up smooth animation, I'd say.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and Chuck Jones worked on it. Mm-hmm. But, like, that was later. But, yeah, Hanna-Barbera, they worked with MGM. Yeah, MGM. They worked with MGM to make Tom and Jerry. That was, like, their first thing. And that was that's the basic animation style. That's all the in-betweens are there. It's all ones, twos. But, like, when they made Flintstones, because it was the first primetime television cartoon, they needed a lot simpler animation style. And that was when they made limited animation. And then everybody started using limited animation. And they made all those shows for kids. Because kids will watch anything.
Yeah.
So, like, they made a lot of crap shows for kids. And it was all done with this very limited animation. And one of my favorites is Clutch Cargo.
What's that?
It's this one. I don't even know what happens in the show. It's just this guy who's like an adventure guy, but the animation
it's so bad.
Oh, it's they have the mod. They draw a dude, but the mouth movement they film a guy's mouth like talking the lines, and then they mat it into the film. So it's real life lips on this cartoon guy. Oh, God. So that they didn't have to animate the lips. It's the worst.
That's like that. That's awesome. That's like that old internet trend of the annoying orange.
Annoying orange. It's the exact same thing.
Oh, that's so bad.
It's so bad. And there was that everywhere in the 70s, 80s. That was the dark age of animation because like Disney died in '66. Disney had no idea what it was going to do. It made the Aristocats, and it was like, the Rescuers. We have no idea what we're doing. What would Walt do? And
what would Walt... That's kind of what Apple's doing now that Steve Jobs is dead.
Exactly. Like, that's the dark age of animation. And when the Renaissance came about, like, Nick Park, Will Vinton, Jeffrey Katzenberg, Don Bluth, especially Don Bluth, they brought good animation back. They brought the heart back in animation. But what happened during the dark age of animation still lives on today. Like you got like, you know, Mickey Mouse and Looney Tunes, they're family things. Like Looney Tunes a lot less of a family thing. But they were stuff.
There used to be some racist Looney Tunes.
Everyone did racist.
I watched a few episodes from the 40s where it was just like this. There was like this Japanese fighter pilot because it was during the World War II, and he was just like, "Aha, ching ching ma," and I'm like, "Oh, jeez!" And he had these giant buck teeth and these little slits for eyes, and I was just like, "That's so racist."
A lot. Leonard Maltin, he always makes he's on these Disney Treasures DVDs. And whenever there's a racist cartoon, he shows up at the beginning like, "Let me explain." No, this is a caricature of a caricature. It's not racist. I swear.
I swear it's not racist.
He puts things into context.
Yeah.
Which I wish they would do if they made a Song of the South DVD. Oh, you've heard of that, right? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, it's this movie about like. It was a plantation after the Civil War.
Oh no!
And it was Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox. It's the Splash Mountain ride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Splash Mountain is based off this movie Disney never wants you to see.
Oh God.
Yep. And like they've made a whole Treasures DVD of the World War II cartoons with all those like Japanese stereotypes and German stereotypes and stuff.
The Hitler Daffy Duck.
Oh well, I just love that short.
That one's good. That one's funny. It was funny when you're making fun of Hitler.
Yep. So they made that, and they were like they put all the racism in context, but they still haven't released Song of the South on DVD at all. without not and you really don't need to. It's not that great of a movie. Like the only reason people remember it is because of Zippity Doo Dah, like all the songs in it. Like the movie itself is boring.
Yeah,
nothing happens.
I can imagine.
It's just this rich white family, and they're not even like make fun of them racist.
Not, yeah,
they're, like it's just racist enough that you don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I understand that.
The worst kind.
I think, but that kind, like you mentioned the dark age of animation, and you've also mentioned like animation's kind of not taken too seriously today. Well, it's taken seriously, but it's taken seriously for kids. You think like if they were to release, I'm trying to think of any animation that's recent that's not like it's American. That's PG-13. It's like because there's South Park, but that's not.
That's R.
That's R, and it's like you need to. I think of. It's not really a kids show, and it is American, but it's a Japanese style. It's Legend of Korra.
Oh, Legend of Korra, yeah.
Legend of Korra was
a lot of television is doing a lot of really, I'd say like PG-13 stuff, like Total Drama Island. I think that's it's stupid, but I think
that was so good. You hate it. But you love it.
It was PG. It was TV PG.
Yeah.
So they said crap and stuff. Then that basically brought about like regular show and
regular show.
Yeah, a lot like things got a lot more PG-13ish for Cartoon Network.
Injustice.
Yeah.
Well, that was Cartoon Network, right?
I think so. Yeah, Young Justice. Yeah.
Young Justice, not Injustice. Injustice is the video game. Young Justice is the TV show. But I didn't watch too much of that, but I was excited to see that like the people from like Robin from Teen Titans and all that stuff was taken to a PG-13 level. And it's interesting to see like I kind of consider like regular show and stuff like that is kind of like a down point in Cartoon Network.
A down point.
I think Cartoon Network's not as good as it used to be right now. I think the high point was when it had like Total Drama Island on it. Maybe that was because I watched it the most then, and of course it's gonna be. This is just my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it's just like how I think Nickelodeon's like high point was when Avatar: The Last Airbender was coming out, SpongeBob was out, Pokemon was out. All in consecutive of each other. You watch Pokemon in the morning, you watch SpongeBob, and then you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then you go to school.
Pokemon was on every kid's channel.
Pokemon is that you gotta talk about Pokemon when you're talking about any animation.
Yeah, well, it was on. I remember it being more like a Cartoon Network show. But I don't remember ever seeing it.
It was on Toonami too.
It's syndicated. It was first Kids WB, I think, when it was first aired. But it's a syndicated show. It's everywhere.
That's the same with Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z was on Nickelodeon. It was on Cartoon Network. It was on Toonami. It's even on Adult Swim sometimes now.
Or 16.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember 16?
Oh, God.
It was the Total Drama Islands guys.
It was, yeah. 16. I was like trying to think of it. Is that the one where they're in the mall?
Yeah.
Oh God!
I know.
Oh
I
know. No. That was so.
It was on Nickelodeon first. I remember for 1 month. I remember there were 16 advertisements, and then it was on Cartoon Network.
There was that one where they all lived at a resort. They all worked at a resort.
Oh, did they? Oh, the surfing
one.
I remember.
The surfing one.
God.
That was horrible.
I completely forgot what that was called. I remember watching as a kid, and I just watch it because it's there.
Yeah, because you can't find the remote. That's why I watched Johnny Test. I didn't like Johnny Test, but it was just like pretty colors, and I was an easily amused kid.
That's like the same reason people still watch SpongeBob or still watch Teen Titans Go. It's like the basic show.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, but the early
SpongeBob
best SpongeBob.
Yeah. Amazing writing.
Yeah.
Amazing writing. And animation.
Anchovies.
Yeah. They had a lot of fun making that show. When you watch classic SpongeBob, you could tell they had so much fun making it.
Do they still have the same writers?
No.
I would imagine not.
Some of them are still there. Some of them are new.
They're just milking that.
Yeah.
For all the money
it's
they
because
can
they
get
don't
to make it so much.
Like a lot of people complain about new SpongeBob as if they want to change something. But really, the problem is SpongeBob is still airing. They have nothing else to do with the show.
Yeah,
after the movie, season four was good. It was fine. It was they still worked on it, and it was fun. It wasn't perfect like the first SpongeBob seasons, which I'd call them perfect. They're probably not perfect, but I call them perfect. Like season 3, 5, they're fine. The people worked on it. It was fun. But after that, they started to make these very stopped caring.
Remember that Atlantis episode?
Oh, the Atlantis
or
episode.
The food truck episode.
I don't remember the food truck.
The food truck episode is basically they're taking Krabby Patties on the road, and then they fall into an abyss and start feeding. That. I think some poop thing to a giant. That. And I was like, why? Why are you ruining my show?
Yeah, that's not really the creator's fault. They just don't know what to do with the show anymore. They're just doing whatever they come up with.
There's a certain
time. And sometimes the jokes are funny. In that particular episode, there was one scene where Plankton, I forget what he did, but
he got stuck into one of the eclairs. I remember that.
Yeah, Plankton stuff is always funny. I think the show, there's funny stuff that happens in the show sometimes, but they don't focus on making really stories they really want to make. You could tell they just want to do other stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just they're just doing it because it still makes money. It's a job. SpongeBob is a job. It used to be a show. Now it's a job. People are complaining bring old SpongeBob back. You can't bring old SpongeBob back. They're done with it.
See, here's the thing. It's certain shows, and some people don't, some studios don't realize this, is shows have a life. Mm-hmm. You have a certain amount of what you can do with the show because it's a brainchild of someone. It's the same thing with Dragon Ball Z with what's his name? I should know the creator's name. Akira Toriyama.
Yeah.
So Akira Toriyama had these great ideas, and everything was flowing out and everything. And it went through Dragon Ball, which is fantastic. I watched that as a very small child. I grew up with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. That's my thing. And then I watched Dragon Ball Z, and then you can just feel a certain time when the show, it was after the Cell Saga, and you just feel the show lose a little bit of its luster, because that's when Akira Toriyama was like, I want to end the show now. But it was starting to get released in America. It was on a huge train. Dragon Ball Z Kai was starting to get made, so he had to create the Buu Saga and then the horror that is Dragon Ball GT.
I've heard about the horror.
Oh my god, it's so bad. But because he just milked the show too much, and that's what happens with certain things. That's what happens with companies in general.
And it's never the fault of the person making it.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like they're not putting effort into it. They just don't. It's not what they want to put their effort into.
I feel like it's like. Of course, I'm going to be sad when a show ends or when a show's done with, like Samurai Jack.
Oh yeah.
That was a good show, and I do like the new stuff. I think that was very well done.
Yeah.
But I feel like it ended. It should have ended, and it's ended at the right point, because if they milked it, it wouldn't have had the same luster, and you wouldn't have the nostalgia. I can't watch new SpongeBob and feel the magic anymore.
Exactly. There's magic to it. Sometimes when you have something you really like making, there's a magic in it. And if you try to and sometimes that magic just goes away, and it's no one's fault. It's not because you didn't make it work. It's because you had the magic, but it doesn't last forever.
Is that?
But as long as you have the memory of it, as long as you have
everyone is gonna enjoy the F is for fire that burns down the whole town. Yeah. Those jokes are still going to be with us. And I think it's the same with books. Did you ever read the Percy Jackson books?
I read the first one.
Yeah. So I read more than I like to say of the Percy Jackson series. And, of course, they were good. They were good. The first few were fantastic. But then as time progressed, you could kind of tell that Rick Riordan was running out of things, but yet there was still such a demand. Like you said, you can't blame the person for it. It's just he wants to give people what they want, but he just can't do it anymore. Because you have an original idea, like you said, you had the idea of the fantastic bathroom,
extraordinary
bathroom, since you were a kid, and when you create that, yeah. But if someone wanted to be like, oh, can you make this, but just more and more and more? Yes, you can still keep that magic and keep running with the same ideas, but but eventually, things are gonna get old, and you can only do so much with it.
And then sometimes you can put a new magic into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have a show continue for a while, but then someone new works on it, and they completely change the style, and it becomes something new, and it becomes a new type of magic that other people can love.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's what they tried to do with the new Powerpuff Girls. Like, they tried to make it for a new generation.
I haven't even seen any of that.
It's not good.
Are they like taking selfies and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh no!
But before,
not my girls.
Yeah, like, but before that, they made this one special called Danced Pants, and it had this completely different style of animation, and it was awesome. It was like a geometric style, and it was all like CGI 2D. It was kind of like Paperman. It was that you've seen that short, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, the Disney short. It was awesome, and like I love like they put something new into something that was old, and that's what makes things live forever. Like
being able to make a transitioning
to newer frontiers.
Because even if you were able to hold on to the magic of like early SpongeBob and early TV shows and just hold on to that and just keep producing it, that's still gonna get old to people eventually. And the fact that it's so fleeting is what makes it special.
Yeah.
Because you could have 1 million episodes that are all fantastic. Like, kind of like Pokemon. Pokemon, the original series, was fantastic, and it lost its magic, not because it changed, or not because it lost anything from it. It's just because it kept what it had for so long. But then it changed. The new stuff, like Pokemon Sun and Moon, the anime, I have not watched it, but I've heard it's fantastic. And that's not from just kids. That's from adults. And I think that's a kind of good example of like a transition when you knew like people were kind of getting sick of it. I think did you ever watch Pokemon, like the Sinnoh region ones?
I didn't watch a lot of Pokemon. I watched a few episodes, but I wasn't really into action cartoons, which is something I regret.
Yeah.
I should have watched Teen Titans a lot more and Pokemon.
Oh, good.
I was always into like more of the cartoony stuff like Chowder and SpongeBob.
Oh, I love Chowder.
Chowder is classic.
Chowder's fantastic.
Yeah, you talked about like that era. Like,
that was the golden era.
Toll Drama Island, Chowder, Flapjack. I grew up with those.
Flapjack
for like a year.
Flapjack
2 years.
Was a weird show.
Flapjack, it's an excellent.
It's got such a like not exactly creepy, but an ear like a almost grotesque vibe to it, but yet it's so charming.
It is very charming. Like the writing, I feel like the writing sometimes is kind of evil. Like you watch an episode and you're just like, I am not satisfied at all.
Yeah, I'm like,
but
what?
You could tell they had so much fun making the art, grossing people out. You could tell, and a lot of the people from Flapjack are working on cartoons, create their own cartoons now, like Pendleton Ward and JG, the regular show guy. Sorry, I couldn't say your name.
But so, I think when Regular Show came out, then Amazing World of Gumball.
Gumball I like.
I don't know. I didn't really get into it. I loved the animation style.
It's
animation style. It was fantastic.
That's because it's every animation style. It's just a mix of every single style.
It's got cutesy, like, kind of, like, cartoony, and then it's got a little bit of, like realistic animation in the backgrounds and stuff. So it's a good mix. I love it. I didn't like the writing too much, but I loved the animation.
Yeah.
What else was kind of from like
that era? Not much.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars. That's interesting because Star Wars was in an interesting time in that because George Lucas was
still owned
it, but couldn't exactly make a new movie, but didn't want to let it die because they needed it to make money. Now it's sold to Disney, which originally I thought, how are they going to make it right? How are they going to do Star Wars right? But then someone assured me, Disney's the people that made the Avengers. And I love the Marvel movies. They're fantastic.
They know how to be responsible with the property.
Mm-hmm.
They are excellent at that. Like, sometimes it's a little bit sellout, but
yeah,
like, Disney is someone I can trust with brands now. Like,
yeah.
back in like when they bought the Muppets, they didn't really know what to do with it.
I agree.
They were just like, Muppets Tonight, Muppets from Space.
Muppets
Whoops.
from Space. What else did they do?
I'm gonna talk about Baby Einstein, which is my thing, and no one else's thing. But the Disney bought that, and they ruined it. No one else can really see the charm I see in Baby Einstein, but when Disney bought Baby Einstein, it lost its charm. Like, it used to be like, it was like a homegrown, it's a perfect example of the American dream. Julie Clark's story creating Baby Einstein. It's like, she had a child, she wanted to make videos for her child, so she made these classical music videos. Fantastic. It's like a perfect example of, this is the American dream, what we can accomplish. But then, like, in 2002, she sold it for like $1 billion to Disney. And Disney were just like, it's a children's company, we're just gonna put happy colors on it. Yeah. But like, Julie Clark had a vision. Like, I think a lot of those early Baby Einstein videos are like surrealist in a way. Yeah. Like, she tries to get the perspective of like the child's eye. So like, she like films these like kinetic toys and like from like a perspective, kind of like a POV shot of the toys. Okay. So it's this very interesting perspective. But like, once Disney bought it, they were just like, let's film some toys. And they didn't really know they didn't understand it. They didn't understand that like, she had a very specific, weird vision for shows for kids. Yeah. Disney did not understand that. But nowadays, like, when nobody really knows what to appreciate in Baby Einstein, so I can forgive them for that. Like, with things like Adventures and things like Marvel, things like Star Wars, everybody's into it. Everybody knows the magic. Yeah. So they're able to not photocopy the magic. Like,
but they're able to take it and move with it.
Exactly.
Because
reinvent it.
Rogue One was fantastic.
It is. I like it.
The Force Awakens, fantastic.
I'm so excited for the new one.
The new one's like
The Last Jedi.
That's gonna be so good.
You know what's interesting? The poster. The poster is a completely different style from any other Star Wars poster, but it's awesome. I still love it. Like, all the other Star Wars posters are like this Drew Struzan style. It's all like big heads and stuff happening in the foreground, like cool ships and stuff. Like, it all pieces together the entire film in one image. And it's always been like the same type of thing, like one big head, two other smaller heads, and then
and they're all the main characters. Yeah. And they're all like, one side's red, one side's blue, and then they've got the TIE fighters in the background.
Yeah. And they always did that. And when they did Force Awakens, they did the poster perfectly to that same style. But The Last Jedi is like a mix between Tron and Face Off.
Oh, yes.
It's an awesome poster. It's a completely different Star Wars poster, but it's awesome.
One thing I noticed with when they made Force Awakens is they didn't exactly create something completely new like they did with Rogue One just yet, and I think that was smart. They kind of ran with the idea of defeating this, like you can kind of say, there were critics that kind of said that The Force Awakens was very similar to the first Star Wars.
New Hope, yeah.
The New Hope.
A lot of people said that.
But I think that was intentional. Yeah. Because Disney wanted to ease you into it. Star Wars is beloved by so many people. They can't just throw you something brand new and be like, oh yeah, the Jedi are now bad and all this is exploding and bounty hunters are the new premise. You can't do that. Because that would destroy the people's hearts.
Yeah,
if you shock them like that.
You need to start out basic. You need
start out with what's already known by the people. Change it a bit and introduce new characters and introduce a new plot, but yet still have them flying to destroy this giant space planet destroying machine.
Make sure you have your backbone, your armature.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was about to say something, but
oh, sorry.
Star Wars I don't know. You can keep going.
So, and I wanted to go back to brand, the companies taking up brands, and there's this one that I believe is still happening that is dear to my heart, and that I believe I'm very worried. Netflix has bought Avatar: The Last Airbender.
They did? Oh, they bought
did.
it? Bought it?
Well, they have the rights to it now, and they're going to be
Wow.
releasing a new one with twin avatars.
That sounds cool.
It sounds cool, but yet, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this is, in my opinion, a very, very particular opinion, Avatar: The Last Airbender is Nickelodeon's masterpiece.
Yeah, I say so.
It's funny, serious, fantastic. Legend of Korra keeps up and is a high level, but it's not exactly as humorous and have the childish humor. It's very different, and I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
If Netflix can make some good shows.
Yeah, BoJack Horseman, Stranger Things, excellent shows.
Narcos, Marco Polo, Frontier, fantastic
Buddy
shows.
Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
I watched the first episode of that, and I was like, this is a cool stop motion show. I'm not really gonna watch it.
Yeah, no, I'm good, but I think Avatar is so close to me that I feel nervous about them just messing it up. But we'll see. I could trust them. What other shows? See, Netflix is so huge now. They're able to not only make their own brands, but they're able to buy brands.
I've heard they're not. I've heard there's some financial stuff going on.
I have too.
But I don't. But I don't know. It seems to be like the next DVD. If it's the next DVD, then
they won't.
I don't think they're gonna.
I believe that if they make.
What is Hulu Plus gonna be like? Their competition?
No. Is Amazon Prime gonna do anything? No. But I feel like I did hear about Netflix having some financial troubles, because this is what companies do: is when they start up, the people will be like, "Oh, this is a great idea," and like they'll like give you all this funding, but then they just run off those reserves and start getting any money and use that for like the funding of the show and buying props and all this stuff, and then whatever money they get, they just instantly throw into more shows to create more content, and that's what they've been doing, and they've fantastic. The stuff they have is fantastic, and I don't think they have anything to worry about. If they keep releasing Stranger Things, keep releasing House of Cards, and keep doing what they're doing, maybe slow down on some less popular shows, they will be able to make a $1 million company out of what they have. It's fantastic.
I was gonna say earlier, it was right after Star Wars. I was gonna talk. People say that Force Awakens is exactly like New Hope. Well, it's just the hero's journey. Mm-hmm.
Archetypal hero's journey. Oh, you're dropping that now.
Yeah, that was what George Lucas made the entire New Hope off of. He basically just made Hero's Journey the movie. It was like, people made every movie is the hero's journey, but when Joseph Campbell wrote it down, George Lucas looked at it and copied it, and he made a movie out of it instead of just making a movie coincidentally of it. I feel like that's if they're just using the hero's journey in the same way George Lucas used the hero's journey for Force Awakens, then of course they'd copy that didn't make much sense. Of course Force Awakens would copy New Hope. It's just they're just copying the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. And I think you can really read into a lot of things when you know about archetypes and know about plot points going back to the Renaissance era, and you can read into films, and it's satisfying. Even it's weird that you can after learning all that, I kind of looked at all the things that I love and kind of saw those in there, and then I thought, well, that's so predictable. But then you look at something without them, and it's not quite the same. Even though you know it's there and you know it's happening, it's just right. I don't know what it's about. Not necessarily the hero's journey or the classic tragedy or classic romantic comedy or something like that. But those archetypes, even though they've been changed a little bit here and there, they're still the same because people still like them.
Yeah, tropes are not something to be ashamed of.
Definitely.
Everyone uses tropes. That's what filmmaking is. Like, I remember when I was a kid looking at TV tropes, I was like, someday I'm going to make a movie without any cliches or tropes. And then I realized that's impossible. Those are the cells of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, like, all human life, like, the way we remember things or the way we think about things is all relative to other things we already know about personally.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's why it's hard to learn at school sometimes. It's like, you can't just learn things from scratch. You're always building off of other things. The things you love.
Mm-hmm.
Did we just go full circle back into, like, learning
at school? Yes, we did. And this podcast is getting to about an hour and a half, and that's normally how I like to keep it. So maybe we should cut this short here.
It's funny, I never really finished my youth silent film story from the very beginning.
Then please go ahead.
That looks like an intro thing.
Yeah. Well, we can end
it off about that. About that.
Why don't you talk about just your stop motion in general,
more
so
about
that
my
people
career.
are left off with who you are, and also we'll check you out.
Well, I'm a stop motion animator. I've been wanting to do that for basically my whole life, even if I didn't know it. And basically what happened was, after making Justice Deposit with Ian and Dylan, I saw one stop motion film with mermaids. I looked at the quality of it, and I was like, I could do that. And so on the car ride home from the festival, I told Mom and Dad, I'm going to make a stop motion film for next year. And I had no idea that I'd win the entire festival that year. I just wanted to make a cool film. Like, I knew it would be a finalist because, like...
You put so much hard work into that.
But I didn't expect to win. I didn't even expect to win the Northwest Regional. But winning the whole thing.
Yeah, that's gotta feel amazing.
Yeah, and so my friends carried me through the aisles when I won the regional. That was the peak.
So I have to ask, with the Silent Film Festival, it wasn't just animation. There were people that were acting. There were people that was like, that's correct, right?
Mostly live action. It's people from all around the world.
Oh wow!
So there's a few different regionals. There's one Western, or West Coast. That's Portland. There's a Midwestern. I think it was in. No, it wasn't Chicago. The one that's not Chicago. The Detroit.
Oh, okay.
It's Detroit.
I was gonna say, I was right.
It was Detroit, and two from Australia and one from New Zealand.
Oh wow! So
it's all around the world of white people.
There's no one in England or Canada though.
No, there wasn't a Europe one, which is surprising because they have a lot of resources.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So I met all these Australians.
Nice.
I got to have tofu with them.
Cool.
Then I won the whole festival for my film.
Oh, wow.
And I got to ride in the Rose Parade, the Rose Festival Parade.
Oh, that's sick.
That was very sick. Although, like, it was one car. It was like one guy's very model car. And, like, we all got into the trunk. And then, like, the bumper, like, the fenders were on the ground because of all of our weight. And so, like, the guy came to us and was like, what are you all doing? Get out of my truck! And we were all just standing there confused, like, we ride in this. But I got down and other people got down.
I see. But
we traded spots every once in a while. And I got to ride in the truck a lot. And so now my plans are to make... I've been working on a few different, more smaller stop motion things. I've been making stuff for forum competitions, and just stuff to show off. Practice animation. I tried my hardest to make a live action film called Migwuggle Miguggles. It's a Dr. Seuss themed horror film, and this is
okay.
And this is what I wanted to get to. This was I wanted to make the main character pixelation. Or not the main character, the antagonist, Migwuggle. Migwuggle Miguggles with his wuzzle. And he was like this character with a Beetlejuice mask. And I wanted him just I wanted to do a pixelation animation, like have him frame by frame move in things. Or if it was with other people in the shot, I'd crop it so that he'd move in twos. And then the other characters would move in ones.
Okay.
I tried really hard to make that, but basically everybody, life happened.
Yeah, I understand.
Like
that. We were in high school.
Like you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were supposed to be the main character, but
Ooh.
then life happened. Like they went to Pendleton for 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And then when they came back, they were like, I need to get a job. So I was like, shoot. And then I tried to get Brice, but then that was now she's on a 2-week vacation. Oh. So I'm just like, okay, guess I'm not making. I'm
sure.
I still want to make it.
That sounds like a great idea.
Actually. I bought like $10 in pickles, and bought costuming and such. So I put money into it. I want to finish it.
Do it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something I'd really love.
I'm sure if you went to anyone in an acting class and said, "Hey, do you or talk to a teacher and said, "Hey, if you can find me someone that fits this criteria for the actor, and could you offer them extra credit?" Because if I was an acting teacher, especially a relaxed acting teacher, my students going out and trying parts and working with people that are animating and making films like you that have experience and have won competitions, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I would be very, especially if it's like AP acting or if you went to the thespian club.
Currently, my main priority in filmmaking is my next youth silent film. It's going to be a, here's the little scoop for all you people who are awaiting anticipating this next film. This is going to be a sci-fi film, because Thomas and the Extraordinary Bathroom Incident, that was slapstick. Like, the way this festival works is that there's a few tracks, 3-minute tracks of each genre you could choose. So there's horror, sci-fi, comedy, or slapstick, Western. There's a whole bunch of genres you could choose from. And I chose slapstick for Thomas. And so now I'm choosing sci-fi for this next film. It's going to be about an alien ship coming to Earth, hoping to welcome themselves to the humans, but then one human thinks that they're a threat, comes on board, and screws up their whole plan.
Nice.
And meanwhile, she steals a knob from the main character, who I've named Protag.
Protag?
Yeah, and Protag plays video games of destroying Earth, and that's what convinces our human to steal this knob from him so he could stop playing the game, thinking it would destroy Earth for real.
Oh, okay.
Their knob. The aliens are non-binary because that's how it would be.
Yeah, I doubt aliens would have genders.
I want to be realistic. Like, I don't want to be realistic.
You don't want to have all
it's not going to be high detail. Yeah. But I want it to be like, what would aliens actually be like? Because every alien film where like the aliens are like characters, they're all humanoids. Like, the green human, bald human with big eyes.
Remember that one? What's it called? So they have an astronaut who's sent to an alien planet, and then it's basically Earth, but people are green.
Alien 51.
Yes,
Area 51.
Area 51.
Planet 51. Planet 51. That was not a good movie.
That was not a good movie.
But John Cleese was in it.
Yeah. I liked certain parts of it. They had a really adult humor section where the astronaut has to strip down naked, and they're like, "Oh, that's where his antenna is," and like, I'm watching this with my little cousin. And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I those type of things. I think that was kind of the main inspiration. Not really, like aliens generally. I think it's really interesting to think like, what is life like that isn't Earth life?
Exactly.
Like,
you gotta think outside the box. It's like creating like a new perception of how things are.
I think the most realistic circumstance for alien life would probably just be dinosaurs. Because it's such a coincidence that humans exist on Earth. Like, really, it should have just been the dinosaurs, but they died because of some things, and humans survived. Intelligence is kind of like not intuitive. It's like intelligence is something that would come about anyway. Like, it would always be the end point of evolution. Mm-hmm. Like, that would always be what wins in the end.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you want to be in the most biological and realistic standpoint, I think it would just be like dinosaur creatures be what alien life would be, because I think they work the best. They're stronger, and they're more diverse, and they should have won, but for some reason the mammals won this time.
A meteor helped us out.
Yeah,
a meteor, an ice age, and
the Dust Bowl.
And the Dust Bowl that helped us out.
Yeah. So when I designed my alien characters to be like based around the Cambrian explosion, which was basically like when animals first came about, they all started evolving like crazy, and like a bunch of new adaptations were coming about in the sea. And there's all these crazy looking things. And I'm just thinking, like, if I were to guess what alien life would look like, it'd probably just be all this Cambrian explosion. Like, that's realistic. So I made these people with, like, jellyfish heads and crab eyes and, like, these spider limbs. So it's supposed to be it's supposed to look alien, but not too alien. Like, if you get too alien, it's not going to connect to the audiences.
Yeah, of course.
I need those eyes on the characters so that there's an element of
familiarity.
Yeah. If it's just like a gross glory thing.
That's one thing with, like, what's that movie?
Arrival?
Is that the new Alien movie where you don't even get to see the aliens?
Yeah.
Wasn't really like there's nothing to relate to. There's nothing you're familiar with.
Yeah, but I think that's the most realistic portrayal of aliens. Like, they're just a completely different entity of life. No eyes, no mouth, no gender. It's just this completely alien thing. It's not like life at all. But with if you want to make an alien character, you have to make it mostly human.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people, they go humanoid. I did not want to do humanoid.
You want to have your own thing.
Yeah, man.
So that's good.
Something realistic looking, not realistic. It's cartoony. They're like
it's a cartoony.
Yeah, but
alien, but something
more realistic. Something that makes more sense in terms of like how things evolve.
Mm-hmm. So that's a film that you're going to start creating, or a film that's
I've written it.
You've written it.
I'm gonna storyboard it very soon.
All right.
And then Nicholas Bergerson, he's a techie dude, theater area, like school, and he said he built sets. I hope he does. I've already spent this whole summer not building sets. When last year for the Thomas film, the bathroom floor tiling, I did that all myself, just placing tiles one after another manually, sculpting each tile. It was like 200 tiles in total, and it was painstaking and not worth the effort. I probably could have just printed it out, but I like the look of it. I like the look of like the physical clay on the ground.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it gets stained. When Thomas walks over it, you could see blue marks on the ground.
Yeah, that could be hard. But
yeah,
maybe with an alien that can be kind of cool, with like leaving slime trails or something, you know.
But Nick builds model sets for theater, like he designs the sets for theater productions. So he does it in miniature first. So I looked at that and I was like, hey, I could animate on that.
Yeah, just give me that. Like, if you're making one for a actual play, just bring the other one over here. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to get started on that. When I wrote the script, I was worried about having the story not be as good, because that was another thing Will Vinton talked about, who I met at the festival. I think I mentioned that a few times. I never mentioned it in full.
I think you did.
There was two people from Grimm, like a producer and an actor.
Okay.
But Will Vinton was like a hero. Because he did stop motion. I talked about him a lot here already. Meeting him was an amazing honor, and he signed my VHS copy of Claymation Comedy of Horrors.
Okay.
And what he talked about a lot at the festival to me was how important the story was. Like, it was easy to assume that Will Vinton would have voted for me because it's stop motion, but he said no, it's not because it's stop motion. It's because it had a good story. Because it was characters going through things, and it wasn't just thing happens. It's character. It's a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and keeping structure to it.
So I was hoping for next year. Like I was really scared about writing this Alien film, hoping the story would be just as interesting. But when I wrote the script, I feel like it's fun and investive.
That's cool.
Writing is fun. I wrote I'm really proud of the things I write. I really like finding ways to connect scenes together. Like I hate it when bad filmmaking is just having scenes. Scene 1, it's over. Scene 2, it's over. What you need is something to connect each scene together. Something that makes it flow.
It's like writing a story. Each chapter needs to connect.
Yeah. Do you ever scroll through? Do you ever find a short film on YouTube or something and it's something you've already watched, so you just watch a scene you've already seen in it and just go through the middle, and then it's the end of the scene, but something interesting's happening overlaying it, so you keep watching just to see that go, and then all these things still the story weaves, and then you're just stuck. You just keep watching the video because I have to keep watching this. That happens to me a lot. Like Rip Van Winkle, I said I watched that a lot. I would never really watch it from the beginning to end a lot. A lot of the times I would just be like, I like this scene, and then I'd go to that scene, and then I forget to stop watching it.
Yeah.
And be the end. I'm like, oh, it's the end now. Okay. I still haven't watched the beginning.
There's just certain things that make you forget that you had a plan to watch a small bit, then 50 episodes later, you're at the end of the season or something like that. And it's just that's a good thing with film, with animation, with stories. To just take everything else out, and you're not worried about I'm gonna miss my train. I'm gonna miss I have a yoga class at 5:30 or something like that. It just kind of takes that out until it's the last minute, and then you can go and do the things you want. It just immerses you. That's a good thing with film.
Yeah, and I hope I can do that. I hope I can make films that'll make people happy.
You hope you can make films. Someone said this. I hope I can make a film that can get a person off their phone.
Oh yeah,
because that's a big thing. It can be hard. When I'm watching shows or something with my family, to not check my phone all the time or something like that. But you gotta to fully appreciate it.
I feel like a really good film is something that when you watch the first time, you can be on your phone on, but then once you watch it again, then it's then that's kind of what you get the full experience out of. If you get a full experience the first time, you don't really have any reason to watch it a second time. But films like Monty Python or Princess Bride, you watch it once, you're like, I kind of get it.
You get it, yeah.
But once you watch it over and over and again, and you don't get sick of it, then it becomes a classic.
Have you ever found a movie that you find a new appreciation for it each time you watch it? That's how I am with Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, fantastic movie.
It's such a good movie. And some people, when I say, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. That and Fantastic Mr. Fox, good movies. And some people are I'm more into, La La Land and stuff like that. I haven't actually seen La La Land. I should. But, it's just, when I watch Inglourious Bastards, I find a new appreciation for each little scene. The scene when they're in the restaurant and she orders strudel. Just that scene, there's something about it. And I don't know a lot about film production and directing, but something about that makes the Nazi dude eating strudel captivating. And it makes me hungry.
Good filmmaking. Good filmmaking can make simple things
Quentin Tarantino did an amazing job on that movie. He did an amazing job on a lot of movies, but
Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs. Oh my god! Recently, there was a video essay. You ever watch video essays? These people are just analyzing film through video.
Oh yes, I have seen.
And there was this one guy who made a video that was just does Inglourious Bastards hold up? And I realized at that point, I watched it in a movie theater, recently. if I liked it watching it there, you don't really need to argue about it. Like good films, like, they don't date. That was in The Wrong Trousers. The Wrong Trousers commentary. The writer Bob Baker said something very, very poignant that I'm gonna hold with me forever. It's extremely specific, therefore universal. So, like, if you have something that's like you try to be general and you end up being like the time, then it's gonna just be with the time. But if you try to make something that's completely out of this world, then no matter...
With films, like, it's a commitment, especially when you're the main character, to be an actor when life is going on and it's not necessarily a job.
Filmmaking gets so hard when life happens.
Yeah, so...
Like, when you're a kid, you can make, like, dumb films. Like, when I was with Ian, we made so many awesome, dumb films. Like Apocalypse Zombies and Apocalypse Zombies 2. I'd call them masterpieces. But, like, you look at them, they're not watchable.
They're not.
Well, I think the second one's probably more watchable. But I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, like, people are like, you can't make a movie unless you have a contract. Or, like, stuff with the school, like, they make their musicals and stuff because that's what they're paid to do. They have money for it. When you're trying to make something independent on your own, you have nothing to rely on. Like, everything will go wrong.
Everything will go wrong. Well, I think that's just speaking about films in general. This is getting close to about 2.5 hours, so
Dude,
I should end.
That's great.
That is great. It's the longest podcast yet, and I've enjoyed having you on here. I should have you on again before I head to college, because this has been interesting to talk about film, talk about animation, talk about just entertainment in general.
Oh, I love talking about these things all the time.
So
that's what I want to live for.
Thank you for being on this episode, and thank you for everyone who's listening to this, the 4th episode. I will link Brice's... Do you want me to link your Twitter?
Yeah, sure.
Twitter, YouTube, and anything else you want down there. And also maybe, like, a direct link to your award-winning film. And so you can check him out. He's a fantastic animator. And it was great having you on here.
Yeah, and look out for McWuggle McGuggles if that gets finished. If it doesn't, then it's completely my fault. And no one else's. And watch out for the... I don't have a title for the Alien film yet, for the next Youth Talent. But I'll decide soon enough. But yeah, thank you very much for
being on.
Time here.
Yes, definitely. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like, subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm starting uploads on SoundCloud also. Follow us on Twitter, which will also be linked down below. I have a Twitch. You know the drill if you've listened to us before. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah.